And one of my favorite directors is Wes Anderson. That's the little pink slide there. Chad's got some meat next to his face and an old classic Ford F-150. Maybe they'll talk about those later.
Thank
Oh,
you,
and I'll
Matt.
turn it over
And
to Lauren.
Lauren,
Yeah.
oh yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
Hey, my name is Lauren Williams. I am also here in the communication department, but I've taught in other departments at CCS, like the interaction MFA department, and we did a cross disciplinary seminar studio class last semester that was combined with fine art, or art practice rather. And so I'm new to CCS. I've been here for about 1.5 years. And so because of that, I've sort of taught across many years and classes, but haven't sort of specialized in one. But my own work sort of spans various forms of design, from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional experience. And I do a lot of research that uses design as a tool to ask questions. And yeah, I can talk a little more about that later, but that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And also pictured in our presentation is Kristen Cook, who is our program manager, and she's not here tonight, but when you decide to become a student here at CCS, you will get to know Kristen very well. Kristen's a really great resource, a great person to connect with. She is sort of the glue that helps keep the department together. She is available to help students with questions and things like that. So although she's not here, she is here with us in spirit. So my colleagues did a great job of sort of setting up the department. We are a department that is definitely has our own unique interests. So as much as we're all really committed and interested in the discipline of communication design, we all have ways in which we use our skill sets as communication designers, and we all have interests that are specific to each of us. So Chad is very interested in food and food preparation, and he's also very interested in typography. So we like to kind of look at the things we're interested in and try and share them in the work that we do, and also in the way that we present ourselves to students, so that you can begin to see other things beyond us as teachers, but maybe unique interests that we share. So this page sort of sets you up to kind of get a little window into who we are. It was a set of images that were created for our Instagram feed. So we do have an Instagram feed that we will share with you at the end. We would love for you to follow us. We really try to also use that feed as a way to kind of communicate out what we're doing as a department. We've been using this feed now for about 4 or 5 years, which has been great. And it really, I think if you look through it historically, you'll see, you'll get a really nice sense of what our community is like in non-COVID times. But I think you'll also see that there are remnants and pieces of that in these COVID times as well. So without any further ado, I will move on to the next slide. So the communication design department, our communication design department specifically, I think is unique to the region, and in some cases unique in the States, in that we are committed to taking traditional graphic design and merging it and intersecting it with interaction design and motion design. So they are not silos, they're not 3 separate programs within our department. They are an integrated disciplinary approach. As graphic design has shifted over the years to being far more dynamic and not really so print bound, we made the strategic decision to change our name to communication design, because we thought it better reflected the kind of work that we were preparing students for in careers in their studio practice as communication designers. So it's our belief that you learn these skills, typography, basic motion design concepts, interface design concepts, and you begin to build on them. You learn them in your first 2 years, and you begin to build on those experiences and can use those skill sets in just about every class that you take. So if you're in your senior year and you're working on your thesis project with Lauren and you want to do something that is UI, UX inspired, you have the skill sets, both technical and conceptual, to help you navigate that decision-making process. And we as faculty are here as your mentors and your facilitators on the work that you do. So areas of emphasis or focus where we see communication design heading, and where a lot of our students find work or build studio practices around are areas like user experience design, branding design, motion graphics, publication and editorial design, both in a physical way and also in a digital way. Environmental and exhibition design. Oh, I'm missing an N there. Sorry about that. I wish I had a prize for the person that noticed I missed the N before me. Maybe you all did. Interaction design, graphic design, strategy and design strategy and planning, motion branding design, which is an offshoot of motion design, and then of course packaging design, to name but a few areas that we have currently alum working and that we see as really viable career paths for you all. Oops, wrong button. There we go. In the best of times, we have really amazing facilities. Even in the worst of times, we still have really amazing facilities. We are housed on the 8th floor of the Taubman Center, which is the campus that is in the new center. It's a shared teaching and learning space. So we see it as a space where we have classrooms, we have labs, we have hallways for hanging work, so that it's exhibition spaces. It's a really amazing teaching space. And currently we're using it a little differently than we normally did. COVID sort of forced us to try something different, but in all honesty, I think it's something that we all had talked about wanting to do. And that is assigning students studio spaces. So everyone has their own desk and their own area to work. And it's a model we kind of hope maybe we'll be able to kind of implement in some form moving forward. But it's a great space where you get to kind of see and hear other classes happening when we are in full person mode. And it's a great place for us to be able to display and share work so that we can equally be inspired by the work that we're all doing simultaneously. On the floor, we have an interaction lab, which Matt will talk about in a minute. We also have been slowly building a Rizzo space on our floor. We have how many drums, Chad?
8.
8. We'll talk about that in a minute too. Chad will tell you what a Rizzo is if you don't know already. We have a variety of print tools on the floor, bookbinding tools, a photo space, and a student space for hanging out. So all of those things we'll talk about a little bit more. What you're seeing here is a exhibition build out of a student collaborative project. We do a lot of collaborative work. So this was a thesis project designed by 2 people that wanted to kind of co-create and co-research and build out the concept together. So as you can see, it's a really great example of the kind of like the different medium that naturally translate in a communication design context. So you see print work, you see data visualization through the form of maps. You see, charts and diagrams with typography. You see web spaces. It's definitely a great demonstration of the way in which the skills that you learn in the department can start to become outcomes that you can begin to experience in a variety of different tactile ways. So these are some of the tools and spaces that we have for building out projects. So light tables, everything that's sort of very traditional, cutting materials, light tables, everything that's associated with traditional print, we can kind of help you with the tool sets that we have. These are some of the images that we shot at the beginning of the year, Matt and I and Chad trying to suggest, and which we've done, I think, a really great job of how we are maintaining COVID protocols and keeping comfortable distances while we're still able to kind of use the facility in a hybrid manner. And we're super proud that we've been able to do that so well. The other students, those are older photographs. They're not unmasked. They just are older photographs that predate. as I said, we are all about different tools and all about mixing tools. So we spend a fair amount of time letting encouraging students, not letting students, but encouraging students to use their hands. So the idea of drawing and collage and doodling and making your own typography and cutting and pasting and making a mess, but also making interesting mini collages that communicate out to specific audiences are also the goals of these experiences that we have built into the communication design department courses. So this is kind of a typical student desk where you can see them completely immersed in a messy and wonderful making environment.
Sue, can I add to this?
Oh yeah, sure. Can you add it to this slide?
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one thing with the collaging in that class that we just added this last semester, Lauren and I. So in that previous slide, students were working with collage with their hands with X-Acto blades, cutting and pasting. But as an extension of that, we use a whole variety of tools for that class. We also had them doing collaging with creative coding. So we created a little bit of code that allowed you to upload any type of JPEG, just drop them in a folder. And by pressing certain keys on the keyboard, it would randomly place and randomly size the images, which created a digital collage. And they could then modify that code and kind of change the variables. But I think it's a great example of the juxtaposition of working with your hands and working with digital tools. Both are about collage, but in two very different ways.
And I would also add in that class too, that a lot of times students will end up doing motion posters. So all of this physicality and making and coding, sometimes students end up making a poster that actually moves because they start to see the value in an image that can move. And so they begin to think about how they might develop a poster or a resulting poster that isn't static at all, but actually something that can be seen and experienced on a screen. So, Matt, I'm going to let you take over from here with the Interaction Lab, and then you let me know when you want me to click the slide.
Okay, this is a image of our Interaction Lab. We're really proud of this space. We've had this for some years now, and this room is dedicated for creating interactive experiences. And it's a room that's been decontented, which means we took out the ceiling, the drop ceiling, we put a grid in. And in the grid, we have Ethernet cables that you can drop. We have brackets that you can mount projectors in. And it's just a really big open space that students can build interactive experiences from very lo-fi, which means building out things with paper and cardboard and testing out beginning ideas, to really high fidelity finished solutions that work with physical computing, work with projection and projection mapping, and just have the flexibility of building things out in this big space over the course of weeks, even months sometimes. So interaction design is more than just designing for screens. It's also designing for spaces and places and even interactive objects. Next to this room, we have a little technology room, which joins this, and students can check out technology and use it and experiment with it and work with Internet of Things. We have movable walls, which you can see in the photos here, these kind of little prop walls that you can set up really quickly. We have over a dozen projectors in our department. We have big projectors and really small ones that are nimble and you can kind of point at things. And it just allows for a lot of flexibility and creativity in creating interactive experiences. Sue, you can go to the next slide.
Okay, I would just also, I'm going to add one last thing, that just to sort of demonstrate too that, we really kind of encourage students to use these skill sets in all the classes that they take. The interface with all the hearts and the windows kind of popping up and down was a type design project in Chad's class. So the type was designed. It was then designed to be a part of this kind of UI UX experience. So students really do begin to kind of see and blur the edges of what you don't really think about things in just print context, but also think about it in screen and experience context. Similarly, the student that is, or the interface that's all the squares, was actually a motion collage project. That was a senior thesis project that included interface design, interface experience, motion design, and creating your own brief and creating your own thesis project. And then lastly, the image or the person that's working with all the pink paper was actually an analog experience design project. So in a class that's primarily considered kind of one of our digital experiences, we actually had a student that created a installation experience that was about mass shootings, and it was completely analog and completely physical and completely something that you as a person had to interact with your hands in a completely different way than you would expect in a digital class. Okay, I will go on to the next slide.
And to follow up on that, you can see here, students are using the interaction lab in a motion design class. So in motion design, we're using programs like After Effects and Premiere, and we're shooting digital video, and we're thinking about how motion and motion graphics can tell stories. Chad's going to follow up on that. But in this case, the students are using that interaction lab to bend light and project typography and project images in different ways, and then take photos of those projections and sometimes shoot video of those projections so they can make type and image in new experimental ways. Then we bring that back into After Effects and we start playing with blending modes, working with green screens, and creating type beyond just digital type that you would create in the tool. So it's a really beautiful kind of mix between those two worlds.
Yeah, and before I pass it off to Chad, I would just say that, I think this slide really also sets up the conversation about what we sort of philosophically believe is embedded in our curriculum and what we encourage our students to do, which is that, all good design starts with good thinking or good research. That research can be informed by understanding content, but it also can come from the making process. So making and thinking can be one and the same actions. And when you're thinking and making, you're sort of playing. You're playing with an idea, you're playing with material, you're playing with technology in order to kind of see that idea and that material and that message in a new way. So our 3 key words in our program are think, make, play. And then we sometimes unorganize them, and they're make, think, play, and play, think, make, and repeat as often as possible, because we also, all 4 of us, fully believe that design is an iterative process that really takes time and really takes kind of thinking and applying that thinking to what you're making. So I will now pass it over to Chad.
So yes, a couple of perks that we have and advantages is that we have a lot of facilities on the 8th floor. We have a lot of equipment that we've acquired over the years through budgets for sponsored projects that we have later in your sequence. But what you're looking at here is an extension of both our photographic capabilities and also some of the things that we do in motion. And it should be noted that one of the unique things about our program is that in the first 3 semesters, we consider foundations to be typography, motion, and interaction design. So your motion, if you were to come to CCS, you would be taking typography 1 in your first semester, typography 2, and motion in your second semester, and interaction 1 in your third semester. And we consider that kind of the basis as to what Sue has been alluding to about the interconnection between all 3 disciplines, making it interdisciplinary. So what you're seeing here is just, again, reiterating what Matt was talking about, is the idea that students were not only learning how to work with DSLRs, work with lighting, but they were photographing type so they could use these in motion, their motion projects. What you're looking on the right is up top is our actual photo studio. We got 2 professional bays with full lighting and drops for different colors when you need them. And so you can, and then you can also take the tables away and you can put some stuff on the ground so you have some full sweeps. And then on the bottom is just another example of the type of the equipment that we have. So if you're going to do in motion, it's great to do modeling, it's great to do all the fancy stuff, but you still got to have to learn how to do a camera, because a lot of alum that have gone through our program are doing photo shoots and working with photographers and working with editors. So they need to learn compositional skills and how to use some equipment so they can talk and be able to understand some of the issues that are going on when they're on a photo shoot or location shoot. So feel free to jump ahead, Sue.
Oh yeah.
And then this is the Rizzo, we affectionately called it's a Rizzograf machine, and it's been around a while, and they have it's been around for many years, several decades, and essentially what it is a glorified copy machine. But instead of black and white, you can replace the cartridges with any color that you want, fluorescent inks, flat ink. You can even put white ink into it. So what you're looking at is on the right side, the ability to run something through the Rizzograf. You can just scan it on top and it can print out, and then you can let it dry and run it through with a second color. So if anyone is familiar with screen printing or offset printing, it gives us that capabilities to extend, instead of just a digital ink space or inkjet printer, it allows the students and the faculty the ability to be able to layer, play with color, play with transparency. And then this is just another example of how, we use technology. This is a relatively lo-fi, like I said, copy machine. And then we have projectors. So we affectionately call our 8th floor and the facilities around the 8th floor the candy store, because the students have many capabilities and many different tools to work with depending on what their needs are and what they want their project to be executed. So this was a particular demo. We run demos every semester, especially when we're not in pandemic. So students are able to get registered and learn the equipment, and then they can check it out and check out a drum and do what they need. And when we were in class, or in session, I should say, in person, there was a lot of people who were executing their projects in Rizzo. So in the same class, you would see somebody be using the Rizzo for their final product, and then you'd also be seeing somebody do code. So again, reiterating what my colleagues have said, it's really nice to be able to kind of choose your own adventure and choose your own path based on the skills and the interests and the abilities that you have. And that makes we're very excited about that flexibility in what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, and I would say the running joke is with the Rizzo is that no one wants to be the person that accidentally breaks it, because it is an old tool, and I don't know that we really know how we would fix it. No. But it is, as you can see, it looks like a Xerox machine, but it's a pretty durable machine, and I think we could get somebody to fix it. But we really are excited to have it, because I think unlike your generation, we kind of came through as print generation. And so the idea to have a tool that sort of replicates a little bit screen printing, and also the ability to layer inks and to see that, kind of translucency of ink. And also the fact that we can use metallics and neon makes us all very happy that the Rizzo exists, and that somebody decided to start selling them on Craigslist, and we're just happy about that. So. And Chad does a great job of sort of keeping on top of it and making certain that we're all trained so that no one breaks the Rizzo. Okay, next. So, and this is where, everyone in the room can, my colleagues can chime in, because we've all been a part of these experiences. But I think another really big differentiator for us in our department and at the college in general, I think CCS, along with other institutions. But in the region, I think we're really kind of unusual in that we really have the ability to do a lot of corporate sponsored projects where it allows us to have some engagement with professional practice while students are still in school. And in many cases, we've also been able to leverage that to become some opportunities to be engaged in the community through sponsorships that connect us to nonprofits. So these are some in the bold type are some of the companies that we've worked with. We have an ongoing relationship with Mercedes-Benz Financial Services. One of our alum who formerly worked there set up the program that would take some of the money that they use in a philanthropic way to connect CCS communication design students with nonprofits that are a part of their partnership program. So those are some affirmations, which is an LGBTQ plus center in Ferndale, Humble Design, Community Living Centers, and Inside Out. Detroit Literary Arts Program were some of our partners that we were able to actually do design work for. We've worked with Quicken Loans. Chad's done a great project around housing insecurity or security. We've worked on several branding projects over the years. And of course, Matt's been doing quite a number of projects that connect him to not only automotive companies, but also other material and tech companies. So I'm currently right now doing a sponsor project rebranding the Grosse Pointe Chamber, and that project is being funded by the Ford Foundation. Last semester, Chad and I did a project that was also funded by the Ford Foundation. So that's another organization that we've really been really lucky to benefit from their philanthropic support. So I do think that these are some really great opportunities so that students, in some cases, students get internship-like experience before they even leave the classroom. We meet with clients, we work with deadlines, we work with budgets. It's a really great experience and a really rewarding one, I think, for the students. Chad, Matt, do you have anything to add? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a couple other advantages of these sponsor projects are, as Sue started to mention, the preparation that goes into these. You're meeting with the clients, you're meeting with the CEOs, you're meeting with the founders of these organizations, and you are creating the projects, you are presenting the projects. And so there's a lot of skills that you are developing along the way. But another unique identifier of this is that there's only the amount of sponsor project we have is very unique. And we recognize that. But the best part about this is the experiences, maybe the toys that you're able to buy to execute some of these projects, but the student scholarships. And over the years, we have, I would safely say, several hundred. I know in this projects that Sue and I have worked on were, $50,000, $70,000 over the last decade and a half of student scholarships. And when you combine all that together, it's quite a bit of money that has been going towards student scholarships directly to help them with their tuition offset. And if you have paid off the tuition, it goes directly in your pocket. So lots of advantages, presentation, some money involved when it's applicable, because there are nonprofits that don't have a lot of money. But there's a lot of great opportunity here for personal growth and, a little bit of a financial reward when applicable.
Also, these projects are typically the full semester. So they're the full 15 weeks. And unlike other classes where you might have 2 or 3 projects that are divided up in the 15 weeks, this, if you have a project that you're working on with Ford, you're working for all 15 weeks on that project, which gives you a lot more time to build out and do research and do real interviews. And then when you start designing and prototyping, you have weeks and weeks to do testing, building out prototypes, testing out different ideas, trying out new ideas, incorporating new technology that we can buy with the funds with the projects. You just have much more time to build out a really thorough concept. And as my colleague said, you're presenting to a real client, which has a real world challenge they're asking you to solve towards. Sometimes a sponsored project like the Honda project I worked on last semester wasn't abbreviated. It was just a 4-week project. It was a sprint. And that's great too. The focus was much smaller. They were asking us to look at, as vehicles become more and more autonomous, the systems in the vehicles and the interface in the vehicles need to get smarter in how they're going to alert somebody if they're driving the wrong way or there's some type of vehicle heading towards them. So it was a focus project. It was 4 weeks. It was a week and a half of research and a week and a half of prototyping, and then a week and a half of final presentations. But it went great, and the client was really pleased. And these are really great projects for our students.
I would also just add 2 other issues. One is, we're in these classes, we often are able to make them interdisciplinary experiences. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we'll partner with another department. Matt's doing that right now with a project Unity project, which is pairing communication designers with transportation designers, which is great. It has always challenges with it because when you have to partner with someone from another discipline, you have to kind of understand each other's language. And although we both share, and as a department, the concept of design, you'd be surprised how different designers think of design and design process differently. So that's a really great thing to learn while you're still a student, not when you're working for a company and you're all of a sudden partnered with another person from another discipline. The other thing is that it also is collaborative sometimes internally. So not only would you maybe be partnered with someone from another department, but you might be one person on a team of 3 or 4 working to solve a problem or identify a solution. And so it really teaches you how to work as a team, which even within your own discipline can be really challenging, but really important, because really design is not an activity that can be done singularly so easy anymore. You really do often find yourself in need of collaboration of different partners that bring different skill sets to the experience to help create really smart and interesting project outcomes. Any other thoughts about sponsored projects? I think we got it. Okay. Our alumni, so alumni success. So again, this is an area where we can kind of continue to share what we're doing. Our students do really well. When they graduate from our program, they really do place quite quickly. In many cases, we have, the full class will have found a job. Other students, go on to become interns or fellows or go on to graduate school. Over time, we've had a lot of students that go out, start working in studio practice, and over, the course of maybe 5-10 years being out, they decide that they're going to open their own studio. So listed here are a number of personal studios. So, we have a student or an alum in Chicago, Jackson Kavanaugh, who's the founder of his own private practice around type design. So he has his own foundry. He works for corporate. He gets a lot of corporate commissions designing one-of-a-kind typefaces for that corporate entity. We also have Kelly Miller, who is the co-founder and creative director at Andor Studio, which is a motion branding studio. So, we also have another one in Detroit, Lunar North. We also find with our students and our alum that they kind of gravitate towards hiring their fellow alumni. So as you start to see these pockets and clusters underneath these studios, you start to see that there's more than one person from the department that's starting to work. So there's a lot of collaboration that happens outside and beyond your 4-year experience. So that's also something I think that we're really proud of, is the way in which our alum hire our alum. So I think that's really great as well. Matt, Chad, do you have other things you want to add about some of the alumni? There's so many stories to tell. It's kind of hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah, I would just say, this is a great sampling, but as you look around, as Sue's pointing out, everyone from Scotland, we've had interns in the Netherlands, we are spread across the country. So our jobs aren't regional. If you identify any company on the West Coast, that's Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, you name it, our students are working there or have been working there. And I think that's a testament to the fact that they are collaborators. They understand the role of technology in design. They understand they understand what good design is. And I think we often hear from our alum that the reason why CCS is special is they can do lots of things and they have lots of skills, but the fundamental design skills and their type skills are really, really strong. You can always learn new skills and new tools, but their basis for coming out of the program is that they're hard workers, they're great typographers, they understand design, they understand the role of teamwork, and all of that makes them very, very sought after. So as Sue has said, you go through all those companies, they're always coming back and say, we need more CCS designers. We need more students like the ones that we've already hired, and recognize, and they seek us out for that. So unfortunately, you can't put all the employers on a list, but we do have a list, and they are spread from Austin, Texas, to California, New York, Detroit, Chicago is a big hub. So you do have that opportunity, and you have that breadth of work to get you to the small places if you prefer, but can also get you to the big tech companies, which a lot of people do take advantage of.
I would also say that a really great concept, something that we're very proud of, is that during these remote times and these COVID times, we've had a number of students that have been able to still get internships. So last summer, we had a half a dozen students working across the country, in some cases internationally as well, on remote internships. So again, I think our students' ability to be adaptive and to pivot and to be flexible in terms of how they use tools and integrate tools into their design making process and their presenting process, they really were smart and leveraged. So next week we have actually a panel at lunch with 6 of our current students. They're seniors, so that means that they actually had these internships at the end of their junior year in the summer of a pandemic. They're going to be hosting a panel and talking about those experiences, what they learned, what they gained through this experience, and so forth. So that's a really exciting piece also, is the way that our students place in internships. So our alumni success stories and the network that we have is really quite strong, and we're all here to help you connect to that network. So when you do get ready to graduate, or you are looking for an internship, we will help you in finding and connecting you to alum that we think are going to be a good synchronistic kind of relationship. And then this is some of the information that is, you're sort of, that you've all probably seen, perhaps on the website. This is some admission information that, really kind of supports and really wants you to understand that, so many of our students do get financial support in the form of scholarships or grant packages upon application, that if you really are concerned about, the cost or how you're going to pay for it, don't rule us out because of that. Talk to the financial aid counselor, talk to your admissions counselor, to really look at and to see what is available to make the 4-year experience here at CCS not that different from a state school, or not that different from our competition. I do think that what we deliver and what we bring to this experience and to your educational experience, I think, is really worth the investment. I really believe that. We take the fact that we know this is a financial commitment very seriously as a body of faculty. So we really do try to make certain that you are as prepared as you are willing to be prepared, and willing to participate in that educational experience. Because of course it's not just one-sided, it's a collaboration between your faculty, yourself, and your classmates. So we believe that really strongly. And then this is our contact information. So if anybody wants to take a screenshot of that, feel free to do that, because it will give you the opportunity to connect out to us via email. Again, I really encourage you all to follow us on Instagram. Chad reported that we hit 1,000 followers, so we're super close.
You could be one of them. You could be the 1,000th.
You could be the thousands. We're really close.
Yeah.
So help us get there. It's not like a fundraising drive or anything, but that did sound like a spiel. Help us get there because it was something that in this time of, kind of not being able to be social, we've been really trying to make certain that our digital social footprint is working well and is alive and kind of demonstrating what we're doing. everyone's been posting work. So we're really trying to make certain that everyone can see that, you know, we're functioning despite all the dysfunction that's going on around us in the world. So at least we're trying. So yeah, go ahead.
We have a really great culture in our department. I heard one of my students refer to herself and her colleagues as being very open source. I think that's a great way of suggesting it. We have a great culture. It's not very competitive. The students are all kind of in it together and working together. They work on projects together. They model for each other. They hold different things when they're in the photo studio. They put their work out there for the world to see, and they're very open to critiques. And I think you'll get a little sense of that culture if you check us out on Instagram. I think we try and do our best to show that culture, to show our students' work, to show the process, a little bit of behind the scenes as well, and to showcase students as well, and our faculty too. But I think that culture comes through a little bit in our social media.
And so we're gonna, I don't see any questions in the chat, but I do want to just make certain that there isn't a question out there that you want to ask. We have one more piece of our presentation that we're going to share. We're going to have Lauren is going to share a class that she did. She spoke of it early in her introduction. It's an interdisciplinary elective course that she co-taught with one of our art practice colleagues, Cheeto Johnson. And it was an international, interdisciplinary, collaborative remote class. And so I'd like for her to share a little bit about that, because we are really starting to try and look at ways and opportunities to develop courses that can be co-taught with different departments. So that as a model has got us thinking about an exhibition design class that we're going to try and offer in the winter of next year that really starts to look at, you know, art practice and interior design and communication design as a way to kind of really begin to use our elective courses as opportunities for students to kind of become a little bit more mixed between the departments. So are there any questions before we move on to Lauren's presentation? Okay, quiet. But you can put them in the chat, okay? You really can put them in the chat. So I am opening up the portal so that you can actually share your screen, Lauren. There you go.
Cool. So last fall, as Sue said, in partnership with Cheeto Johnson and the art practice department, we taught a course where our students, we had about half and half. Actually, it wasn't even. We had a mix of like CD students, art practice students. We also had interior design students, material students, a photo student, people working across many mediums. In this studio, that was it was a seminar studio, so there was like reading and discussion, but also making. And I think the cool part about this was that it was a not just collaboration across departments. So we had fine artists, people who paint, people who do installation work, working next to communication design students. But also we partnered with a school in Zimbabwe, in a capital city there, called the National Gallery School of Art and Visual Design. And so we had half the class was here in Detroit, the other half of the class was there in Harare. And so there was a lot of opportunity in the context of this class for folks to like do projects together. The first project that we did, which is at the very bottom here, students went on derives together, and a derive is just a French word for a wandering walk, basically. And so we had students locally in Detroit who went on walks with their friends and classmates in Harare, and then they made work that responded to that experience. So that was kind of cool. And this was also an interesting sort of response to COVID, because being online is hard, but being online with someone in a completely different country and context was kind of fun, and not something we would have necessarily done like in a normal school year. So there were 3 projects. You can see them all here. The website is mappingportals.cargo.site. I'll put it in the chat if you want to look at the work there. And I'll just show you really quickly. This is the About page, so it kind of explains it in more detail. You can see all the students' work that was here. And I'm just going to show you 2 students who are from our department. So Marie Patton was part of this class, and this is, you're seeing her final project. So she ended up doing sort of a combination of a photography and graphic design project, where she was exploring sort of how Black women come to identify themselves as beautiful and how they see beauty represented when they look at themselves in the mirror. And so she played with projection, photography, and then also this sort of like typographic treatment to the definitions that the women she photographed gave her. But then each student's page will show you more about all the work that they produced throughout the semester. So you can get a sense of the collaborations that they did with others. And a second communication design student who was part of this class is Maddie Graham. And so you're seeing Maddie's final here, which was a card deck modeled after prayer cards, where she was trying to kind of deliver a critique about the ways that she sees American imperialism playing out across the world, which is something that she started learning about in the context of this class, and then in her final project decided to comment on. So same deal here, you can see more of her work. There were about 20 students, so there's a lot to look at on this website. And if you want to get a sense of sort of the kinds of conversations we had together, there was a final event where all the students, both from Zimbabwe and Detroit, gave a public forum, basically, where they discussed their work and the things that they learned through these exchanges, through these kind of like playful back and forth call and response type projects across Notion. Yeah, and that's pretty much mapping portals. We also, last thing I'll say is we also have an Instagram. So if you want to follow that, you can. It's a lot of the same content from the website, but a little bit of new stuff as well. So that is it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. So I think we've, kind of probably filled your head with a lot of stuff. And so, we want to be mindful of the time. And we really are interested in hearing from you all what your level of interest is in the program, or questions that you might have that we can kind of help, either direct you to someone that can answer that question or answer it ourselves. No question is off the table. And so please feel free to either unmute yourself and ask it, or pop it in the chat. You can even ask a question for your parents if they're interested in something and want to ask, or they can ask something too if we have any parents in the room.
Will this presentation be emailed?
I believe that it is live on YouTube, so I can find out how to get the link to that to you. I can certainly have Laura Kavanaugh, who is the admissions person that worked with you, I believe, in setting this up, report that back to you or send that back out to you. But yes, we can certainly do that. She's the person recording it. Oh, there she is. You can, yeah, it's live on YouTube and it will be recorded. Yep, sounds good.
I'm watching you, Sue, live twice.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like funny. I watch, I like comedy, and when the Zoom room goes cold, I kind of can really understand how stand-up comedians feel when like something doesn't land, that like kind of silence, you just kind of go, it can make you a little crazy, but I understand. It's been a long day, so no worries. So we got some links in there. That's great. In following us on Instagram is CCS, or it's lowercase, right? CCS CD. So that's how you can follow us on Instagram. So please do that. We also have a Vimeo that just, let me find the Vimeo channel. Let's see. Can I find the Vimeo channel?
I can put that one up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chad. So we got the Vimeo channel. That's also, we intentionally are not showing a ton of things that move because when we first started moving into these Zoom spaces in class and also in virtual events, we found that anytime we showed a lot of motion work or work that moved, everything lagged and it was kind of funky. So absolutely begin to have a look at, yeah, I didn't do I did it to Lauren, sorry. Definitely have a look at our Vimeo, because then you can actually see things kind of in context. So that's hugely important. And a lot of I believe, isn't this right, Matt? A lot of our Vimeo stuff is also interaction videos as well.
Correct. Yeah, it's a really good mix between our motion design work and some interaction and experiential projects that students have created. So one misconception is some people think that you have to be great at drawing to be a great graphic designer or communication designer, and that is not the case. So I'm just getting the questions kicked off for you guys, but please don't be shy and ask questions. But you don't have to be great at drawing to be a great communication designer.
No.
We play with lots of different tools. We master some of those tools, but we're always working with different tools and technologies. We do work with our hands. We do some drawing, but oftentimes it's to sketch something, to just freeze an idea, to capture a moment. And then we move on to other tools to make and refine those moments. So if you have any apprehension that you're maybe not a great at drawing, you can kind of put that aside.
For sure. I was just putting in the chat, that if you are, it's not a bad thing. It's just not essential. And photography is something that works just as well as illustration sometimes. We really, we're open tool. So as much as we're like open channel about, you want to create a design solution that's dynamic and UI UX, or you want to make something that's moving, that's like a motion video, we're also open to tools. So if you want to draw, you can draw. But you don't have to. One of the things we do draw quite a lot, I think, naturally, is typography. So I think a lot of students really like to take our type design class. And it is really great when we start to see students using their hands, using brushes, using tools that are sort of not digital to create typography, because all of those marks can easily become digital if that's something that you want to do. So I think that's a really great comment, Matt. I think a lot of incoming high school students, transfer students really worry about that. And so we're here to tell you, don't worry about that. Yeah, Chad got a C in life drawing in college. I think I probably did too, maybe even worse. I don't know, probably a C, because I was just so hardworking.
Yeah, you said that something, we were talking about this before. You said your teacher told you drew like a graphic designer. My teacher told me I painted like a graphic designer because I tried to make everything like iconic, nothing expressionist or
yeah. Yeah, I heard that a lot. I heard you draw like a graphic designer, and that was not a compliment. So, but I got through it. I'm planning to go in the fall, but I have a question about the type of projects that will be introduced in your classes. Sure. So the type of projects that will be introduced in your first semester in the communication design department will be what we kind of see as our kind of communication design foundation, where you take 2 typography courses. The first is really kind of typography through the lens of 2D design. So really getting students to understand that letter forms are really no different than circles and squares, and that they can kind of be used and toyed with and combined and merged and collaged in the same way. But eventually typography does have to be in service of a message. And so then we get you thinking about and working with and identifying language that you want to integrate into your projects. So we give you some prompts and some options on how you might do that. And we really kind of in those courses really hopefully get you to understand 2-dimensional design concepts. So how do you organize information? How do you create a hierarchy so that someone reading your message will know what to read first, what to read second, so that as not to overpower or make for confusing messaging. That happens in your first semester. Second semester, and everything that you do the first year is sort of exercise based. So it's really about learning how to make and to get some feedback. So you engage right away in our program in critique. Critique not only me as a faculty member critiquing students, but students critiquing other students. So it really becomes a kind of holistic critique experience. We introduce you to crit language so that you feel comfortable talking about each other's work and not thinking that you're insulting someone, because a critique doesn't necessarily have to be insulting to be productive and to be helpful to the person hearing it. So we talk a lot about that. You're also learning Adobe Illustrator in that course so that you're feeling more comfortable with those tools. Your second semester, you're introduced to Adobe InDesign, and you start to take those typographic basics that you're learning in the first class and beginning to put it into a sequential narrative system. So you start to make basic books and basic sequential documents, and then simultaneous to that happening in print, you're taking Motion 1, which is working with sequential narratives in a motion context. Very much typographic in orientation. And then also the integration of image starts to become a part of that second semester freshman year experience. Along with that, we are working on re-envisioning our foundation program. So you all would be the first cohort that would start to, take different foundation courses than what are currently offered in the course catalog. But I won't get into too much detail on that because not everything's been approved, but that is the plan, is that you will be entering CCS with a very different foundation program in front of you. And the courses that you would take in for communication design would be tailored towards moving concepts of drawing into concepts of imaging, so that you see the idea of an image as being more than just something that you draw, but something that you can collage, something that you can photograph, something that you can draw into, something that you can layer. It becomes a really important shift for the foundation program for communication design students. That's a great question. Thank you, Bree. Any other thoughts or comments? All right. I am not sure if Laura is in the space right now. I know that she might have some admissions information that might also precipitate, get some questions happening. If you want to maybe step in at this point, Laura, and see if there are some admissions questions or input that you want to give and share with the students, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would be happy to answer any questions. So I'll just take a brief pause here. You can feel free to unmute, or if you're more comfortable, you can certainly type your question in the chat. So I will say this, we have gotten some questions about, what's happening in the fall. And as we all know, things can kind of change on a dime, but the plan currently is to be fully in person, unless we are mandated, of course, to be virtual. And again, we'll have a similar, I'm anticipating, approach to what we have this semester, but the plan is to be fully in person. That is a question we've been getting quite a bit of. And I know we have 2 deposited students in the room, so we're really excited that you have chosen CCS and chosen to attend here in the fall. Are there any questions about what happens next, whether or not you're an applicant or an admitted student? Maybe it's just late and maybe you've had it and are ready to sort of turn in for the night, but I will type our general admissions email in the chat if you do think of anything.
There is a question in the chat about that Faith asked about requirements for study abroad. So that's a great question. And typically we really encourage students that are interested, sorry, there's a smoothie being made in my kitchen. that if students are interested in study abroad, we really encourage them to think about that in their junior and senior year. So sometime after their sophomore year, so that because we really see the first 2 years of your curricular experience at CCS is sort of forming skills, developing habits, understanding things like how to work with messaging and coding. We cover semiotics a bit in our first semester of our sophomore year. You'll, by that time, at the end of your sophomore year, have some really good type skills, how to work with composition and a variety of different contexts. You'll also be able to conduct a bit of research. You'll also be able to work in interactive and user experience environments. So we want to send you to an international experience as packed with as many skills as possible, so that when you get there, you can use those skills and then gain new ones, right? But we want you to be able to kind of understand design languages, because it's, I think, an important aspect of studying abroad, because everything else culturally can be so different, that you want to kind of go there with your set of skills that you can expand on, and come back with new ones to share with your classmates. So those are sort of the requirements that we sort of have internally. I do think that there are some grade point average college-wide policies around study abroad. Off the top of my head, I don't have the GPA, but I'm assuming if you're already thinking about studying abroad, you're probably going to be somebody that's going to be like very on top of how you're doing, and and so that probably won't be an issue. But those are things that we can certainly get back to you through the website. We also have a study abroad program that we haven't been able to do now. We won't be able to do for the second year, which is Reprogram, where we go, we take a bunch of students to Holland, the Netherlands. And so that is our communication design study abroad. Chad just put the link in the thread. That's great. Thank you. That's the 3.0 is the grade point average. Thank you. You guys are great. So that's also an opportunity. And similarly, we really encourage junior and senior students to participate on that study abroad program as well, just so that they're prepared and can kind of navigate, international experiences and get the most out of them. Great question. What are the advantages of attending an art school over a liberal arts school with an art degree? For me, I would say the answer to that is that I think you'll just be in a lot more, you'll have a much more comprehensive art and design experience. So you will take a whole lot, I don't know the exact numbers because I haven't taught at a university in a while. If anyone in the room can help me out there, but you take so many more courses, you have so many more classroom studio experiences at an art and design school, that at the end of the 4-year experience, you really do walk away with skills that prepare you for professional practice.
Sue, I can test
Yeah,
that.
you remember. I don't remember back in the day when I taught at Eastern.
Yeah, having taught and went to a liberal arts school, the big advantage is, to Sue's point, I remember my first 3 semesters, I was taking all my general requirements, my liberal arts requirements, and then with a little bit of drawing and some of those other more general art classes out of the way. And I didn't touch a graphic design course until I believe my second semester sophomore year. And that's the big difference. And with the liberal arts, even though they might have a graphic design program, it's accredited differently. So you don't have to have as many courses. So I only probably took 6 courses and that's not uncommon throughout my 4 years. Whereas by the end of your sophomore year, you've already taken probably 8 courses in communication design. So it's a much more intense, much more rigorous thing. But I eventually had wanted and needed to go to grad school because I wanted more graphic design education, because I didn't have a lot, just because of the nature of the school. No complaints, but I just felt as though I needed to pursue that. So it's kind of a big difference. When you arrive, you're here, and we want you to be in communication design as quickly as possible. And that's why type 1 occurs your first semester.
And we hear from industry and from our alum that when our students graduate, they hit the ground running. They're totally prepared for the industry they're going into. They don't need that acclimation period of 6 months or even multiple years to kind of get up to speed. They're ready. They have the skills, they have the presentation skills, they have the research skills, they have the design skills. They're ready to hit the ground running.
Which, to Matt's point, then ensues, it feeds the 100% or close to 100% placement rate, because we have such a large advantage over other art and design schools, but definitely over liberal arts schools and public schools, because, as Matt's saying, your skills are extensive by the time you get out.
Yeah, I was, it's been a while since I taught at a university, but Chad quickly reminded me that, yeah, absolutely. I think when you're in a liberal arts school, you don't really start your major until you're, halfway through your college experience. So the thing I remember, I went to a liberal arts college for my undergrad. I actually also went to a community college first. So I am the community college associate's degree, BFA. I did all of them. And one of the things that I remember about what made me so happy about finally getting to the university was that I was able, once I got into my major, I was able to kind of find my tribe. I was able to find my people in the sea of a large university. But it took me all of those, of course I didn't take the traditional path. I took the community college path. But the nice thing about going to an art and design school is you sort of meet your classmates, and you get to kind of experience and get to know the people that are a part of your group, that you feel are like-minded, that, you're like, oh, the other graphic designer that you had in high school, now you have a whole room full of them, And so that was really, I think that's the real big difference. I went to an art and design school for graduate school, so I got to see both sides of that coin. And you quickly are able to form community a lot quicker than you are when you're in a liberal arts college, university. But, I think it's a good question to ask. And I think it's a really important one to kind of know what you're looking for from your college experience. For other people, it might be, well, I don't know that I want to be, maybe I want that diverse experience of different majors. You still have that at an art and design school. The other reality, unless you go to a small liberal arts college, the size of CCS is very intimate. And so it's really, it's very approachable. And again, I think, as Laura says, the goal is to be in person in the fall. And I think that's something that, we're feeling pretty comfortable being able to do, because we are just such a small institution that we just don't have the just mass numbers of students that universities are going to have to make that decision around in the fall. And that's a challenging one for them. Let's see, anything else? All right. How are you all doing with your high school hybrid? Are you in a hybrid situation? Are you in person? How are you all managing high school, your senior year in high school in COVID? I have a son that is experiencing it, so I have a little bit of a window of what it might be like, but how are you all doing with that?
You can type it as well.
Okay, good. Oh, fully in person, Abby. That's great. Hybrid. And is everyone staying safe at your school, Abby? Fully in person? That's great. We've been really successful with our hybrid. We really have not had any huge outbreaks. And it's been, I think, everyone's really been committed to keeping each other safe. So we've been really lucky for that. But it's been hard work on everyone's part, students, faculty, staff alike. So I think, we're really proud of the fact that we've been really successful in that arena. Yeah, my son, I think he's supposed to go back and fully in person in the middle of March. So I'm kind of happy about that. I feel bad for high school seniors to be experiencing their last year this way through cohorts. Some people, yeah. Same with my our school right now is hybrid. Yeah. I think for a lot of students that are independent like yourself, Bree, and are able to manage their time and sort of the discipline of what it takes to use your asynchronous time wisely. I think then these different models are really helpful. The thing I think I miss the most though about not being able to be in person is just being able to see what everyone's doing and see it up on the walls and see it in the classroom and just, walking down the halls, you get to see a lot of really great activity. You get to hear things, you get to see people in person and be able to have small talk. I never thought small talk, I would miss it, but that little kind of anecdotal, hey, how you doing? I mean, I think we all kind of are realizing that in some ways we need a little bit of that. So I'm sort of I'm hoping that we can be in person again soon. We are hybrid right now, and that's working really well. But we also have all our classes so staggered so that we could be socially distanced. I don't see people as much. So I haven't seen Lauren or Matt or Chad in person in a while. And so it was nice to see them in the squares today. Whereas I would be seeing them, every day or every other day. So just that kind of community within our department as faculty, I really miss.
One of the silver linings that we've talked about is sometimes you have Zoom fatigue, but it also, this Zoom life prepares you for, gives you the opportunity to work at new places that you maybe would never have worked at before. We have several alum that work for Adobe, and one works on the West Coast and one works right here in Michigan, and he works remotely, and we actually hire him to teach some of our adjunct motion design, interaction design courses. He actually moved here before COVID, but just like we're Zooming right now, it's preparing our students for more opportunities to be able to work remotely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Bree, if you're independent and really kind of capable of managing yourself in these platforms, then you can really leverage that skill later on after the 4 years. The other thing that this has sort of helped us be able to do, and other departments were doing it, but I didn't know that, but is that we're able to hire people now to teach that don't live here. So we can do the opposite. So we've got Michael Craig, as Matt just pointed out, who works at Adobe, moved back to Michigan before COVID and was able to work remotely for years. This also sort of made us start to think differently about how we hire faculty. So we have one of our other alum, Larissa Martin, teaching in our motion, some of our advanced motion classes, and she lives in Brooklyn. So it's also giving us the flexibility to think differently about how we bring different faculty in that don't live in the area. So I think one of the things moving forward is that we are trying to look at pieces of our curriculum that we think can be remote and that maybe make sense for remote delivery, and see those as opportunities to kind of make those changes as a result of COVID, and then really look at what is important and what classes are important and key to maintaining community within the department. And really, when I say community, it's social, but it's also, I really believe strongly that students learn. You're all visual people. We're all visual people. I learn visually. I think seeing work up and around, like being on a floor that's like a museum of student work, can't not be inspirational and can't not like somehow trigger ideas and get you kind of involved in the making practice, right? It may make you feel really competitive, which is fine, like go there. Or it might make you go, oh my gosh, like I aspire, that's great. So I do think that the just the visual physical space and all the things that happen in a day or a week, that energy I think is definitely intoxicating and really does move the needle in terms of student creativity in ways that I think we're just, I'm anxious to get back to.
And as Sue said at the beginning of the presentation, you got a little glimpse of it, I think, in some of those photos. Our space is incredibly open. So the Interaction Lab is one of the few spaces that's a closed room. We want it to be closed so we can build things out over time. But most of our classrooms are really open spaces, and we have movable walls and pinnable walls. And as Sue was saying, it's great because you get to see all the students get to see their other peers work at every level. Freshmen get to see senior work in the senior space that's kind of all out there. So you're inspired by things, and you get to see the best of the best, and you get to see how people think through their process visually. It's just really inspiring. I had doubts about our space when we first moved in, but I absolutely love it now. And I love that openness, how you can just see everything out there. Does anyone else have any other questions? Don't be shy.
All right. Well, I think if there are no other questions, maybe we'll let everyone rest their eyes for the last 10 minutes. And, you do have, you can certainly contact me. Laura can, here, I can just put my email address in the chat. We really need to get smaller, shorter email addresses. College for Creative Studies.edu. I think that's spelled correctly, but so there you go. So absolutely copy that. If you have any follow-up questions, the rule is, it's the same root. So it's R. Reichert, M. Ropp, it's L. Williams 8. Yeah. L. Williams 8. So, it's a pretty long but understandable system. Don't hesitate to drop us a line and put your questions in an email if you feel more comfortable doing that. But we're here to help you, and we're here to talk about and answer questions. So what do you think, Laura? Should we call it a night, you think?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
You're not out of luck, if you didn't get your question answered or if something comes to you later. I can attest to just about everyone here. They're great at responding. So don't feel intimidated to reach out to a faculty member, to the chair. We're very approachable, or we hope we try to be, we strive to be. So otherwise, thank you all for tuning in, and have a great rest of your night, if it is nighttime where you are.
Yeah, enjoy, and have a great weekend, because it's coming up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
See you all. Thank you.